Hello there, and welcome to another episode of, well, this show, which, you could say is the super star destroyer of our fleet, the chief chirper of our Ewok tribe, the Grand Master of our Jedi Council, the invisible hand of our separatist fleet. This is the Bionicle Inspiration series, the show I'm sure you come to this channel for. It's the show, the top of our lists. It's this one. That's what we're here for. And if you're here for Bionicle MOCs, really cool Bionicle MOCs, well, that's what you can expect today. Time to get inspired, see some cool stuff as we talk about some Star Wars-themed Bionicle MOCs. With some recent Star Wars news, some cool Mandalorian TV shows, and a whole bunch of other great Star Wars things, I feel like it's a good topical time to be talking Star Wars. Also, Ben likes Star Wars, and if you're here for Star Wars quotes and just random fun Star Wars things, then get ready. Be afraid, because a lot is coming. And if you're not afraid, you will be. You will be. Alright, I didn't fill up my water, so I'm going to briefly pause this episode, do that, come back, and we're going to talk about some cool Star Wars MOCs. Let's go. My water is filled, and my heart is ready. Let's go. So, this first MOC we've got is the Mandalorian himself, and it is by Logan W. So this, of course, is a representation of The Mandalorian from the TV show The Mandalorian, featuring Mandalorians, as I'm sure you're aware. Great show. Watch it if you haven't. Season 2 is fantastic. No spoilers here today, I promise. But, hey, this is a fantastic rendition of our boy, The Mandalorian. So, that cape on his back, I was originally going to be like, that's not an official cape, but it actually just might be. So there was an older Bionicle set called King Midas, and he had this interesting kind of grey cape. I want to say it's that. Don't quote me on that. But it might be. And hey, if this is some custom cape that Mr. Logan W has made, good job. You've made a very nice little custom cape. But hey, there isn't a sort of more official kind of grey cape that you could use and could buy. So if you're like, I want to make Din Djarin myself, I'm going to make the Mandalorian, let's do it. Then there's a cape that exists for you. So head on to Bricklink or buy the set, whatever, look into it. Looks like you could have a purist version of this cape if this is not an official one. So hey, something to think about. And a good old cape always makes a MOC look cool. And a cape makes a Mandalorian look cool. Just like here. Really like it. Some other stuff that I really like on this is the helmet design. That good old Beskar helmet looks fantastic. If we take a look at the top of the helmet, it's actually using a Bionicle mask at the top of it. I believe it is Taraga Onawa's mask in grey? Old grey? Ooh, I don't really know. I think it's that one. Yeah, I said I was going to put a lot of images in this. I'll get you an image. Ben, do some editing. Do some editing. You'll see what the mask is that he's used there. At least what I think it is. It's hard to tell. There's only a couple images. There's only one image of this MOC. But it looks like he's used a Bionicle mask there to get the top of Mando's helmet, which is great. I really like that. Because, hey, masks are really useful, and putting them, upside down like this for the top of a head and then kind of building out the rest of the helmet, it works really well. Something else that works really well is, your typical Mandalorian helmet has that T-visor, which is sort of where they see out of, it's just how a Mandalorian helmet works. But there's actually no kind of black there to form that actual T-visor. It's just kind of empty space, kind of negative space that's formed in the way that this helmet is made. So obviously, like I said, the top of the helmet's that mask, the sides use a variety of different sort of smaller system pieces, some kind of claws and other little clips and things, and it kind of forms the outside of the helmet, but I do like that T-visor is nothing, because yes, you could build a sort of black interior there so that it looks a little bit more accurate, but naturally the kind of just shadows of that piece just kind of create a sort of black outline around it. So I think that's just a really interesting thing to note that, hey, if you are making something and you're kind of like, I'm really struggling to put this extra highlight of color in there, or in order for me to be super accurate, I've got to find a really interesting way to do this technique, you could do something very similar to this where there isn't actually anything there, but it kind of just creates the illusion as if there is that sort of black highlight around the T of that visor. It's just a little interesting, little subtle thing, but I think it's quite creative and quite clever, if I'm completely honest. So this of course, is the kind of pre-Beskar armor from the first sort of couple episodes of the first season of Mandalorian. And, of course, obviously he updates his armor, but hey, maybe I shouldn't be spoiling Season 1, but hey, it's a year old at this point. Get on it, watch the show, everyone loves it. But, regardless, this armor here, I actually really like his original armor. I love his new armor too, but I personally really like this one too. What's cool about it though is it's quite asymmetrical. If you cut it down the middle, it's not equal on both sides. And I like that. I like that a lot. Especially because I've had a bunch of people in the past be like, oh, do an episode on like symmetry or asymmetry or something. I'm like, that's a great idea. I'm sure one day I will. Just haven't done so yet. But no reason that I haven't. I will in the future. But, one thing that's great about asymmetry is it can often look really cool. And this, I think, is just a great example of how cool it can look, whether that's on this MOC or on the official Mandalorian armor. And, I also think, too, having an asymmetrical design on your MOCs is also really just helpful for your collection. Sometimes having the exact same piece twice so that you can have it on, both the sides of the left and right arm. Sometimes you might be like, I don't have that piece twice. I can't do that. So opting for an asymmetrical option like this can allow you to use, the pieces that you might have in your collection. And you don't have to worry about that symmetry and making sure you have that piece, 2 or 3 different times, So yeah, leaning towards an asymmetrical design could be more useful for your more maybe limited parts selection. And definitely don't worry about it not looking good, because I think the official Mandalorian armor here on the original source material is an excellent example of how amazing an asymmetrical design can look. I love too the use of that Han Solo brown shoulder armor piece on his shoulder here, because, that Han Solo CCBS set is an underrated set, and it has some really, really interesting pieces in it, and it's just good to see that piece being used on MOCs. Not something you see used every day, and it's a fairly recent, kind of late-to-the-party piece. So, pretty cool. Speaking of pretty cool, there's just a fantastic little Mando MOC here. Really, really solid work, Mr. Logan W. Let's move on from one Mandalorian to another Mandalorian. Which that, of course, could be debated, but, I'm not going to say anything. Anyway, Boba Fett. It's Boba Fett, and this is built by Pirthiv. Pirthiv. I don't know how to pronounce that, man. I'm really sorry. Technically, the name of this photo is P1000493. So maybe I'm wrong to call this Boba Fett, but, it's Boba Fett. So, this is a fantastic version of Boba Fett. What I like so much about it is the fact that he's obviously taken the official CCBS Boba Fett figure and made it look way cooler. Way cooler. And I love that, because some of those CCBS Ultra Build, Star Wars Ultra Build sets, whatever you want to call them, they're really solid. And some of them, they're okay. And some of them, could do with some improvements. But you look at this, and he's filled in a lot of gaps. He's added a lot of really solid, beautiful-looking details, given Boba Fett a few more gadgets and things as well. It looks really, really cool. So, why not do that yourself? I'm sure, like me, you bought a bunch of those Star Wars Ultra Build CCBS Star Wars figurines. Nothing at all wrong with grabbing some of your favorite characters that were made as sets, grabbing them as they were as a set and going, okay, what can I do to buff this out, add some more to it, make it look a little bit more realistic and accurate? Because like we see here, it can be done really, really well. Really, really well. So let's talk about some of the stuff he's done that's made it look oh so cool. So let's take a look at the knees. So he's used some of these Kitongu they're in Kitorange, or that sort of, what is it, bright flame orange or bright light orange? I don't know the official name, but us Bionicle fans, we call it Kitorange. So that beautiful piece there, using those slicer feet in that color. And ironically, those work really well as Boba Fett's knees, a specific knee armor that he has there. It's a shame there's no knee darts, love a good knee dart, but it still looks really cool. And again, I think that's just a very subtle addition, incorporating one little piece there. Obviously, buffing it up and adding some stuff around it to attach it and everything. But I'm just quite blown away by how effectively that specific piece actually matches the original kind of knees of Boba Fett. It's pretty cool. The other slight little additions, like adding some of these sand green flag pieces just to put a little bit more sand green on the upper legs. You've also got this cool belt, which is made using a lot more sort of system pieces there. I really like that. I really like that a lot, because just a little subtle, slight addition there using some system pieces. Of course, using your system pieces, you can really pack in a little bit more details, because system pieces are naturally smaller, so you can really layer more in there. And yeah, it just goes a long way. A little subtle addition that I think does a lot. But also another subtle addition that's really cool, just directly under that belt, is the inclusion of some of these curved slope pieces in grey, just to fill in the kind of gap between the leg and the torso. Again, very subtle, but it just hides some of those gaps and make it look all that more realistic. It's very nice. It's very nice indeed. And I think, honestly, that would be my main advice if you are planning on tackling one of those revamps of the set. One of the things about most CCBS sets is that they're made to be playable. They're made to be posable, because it's a toy. You want it to have those qualities. That's what sells the toys. That's what allows you to play with them, which, remember, that is the intent of the toy, even though, you know, I'm sure some of you watching may be adults, or some of you may be teenagers, and you're like, I don't really play, I just build, you know, which is fine. But hey, if you play, that's half the fun. So, you know, obviously, as a toy, they're designed to be played with, and so naturally some of the joints can have gaps in them so that posing is a lot easier. And of course, if you're aiming for posability, do that. Have a few gaps in the different points of articulation, because it stops things getting in the way, it helps it pose better. So, you know, it depends on your purpose there and what you're aiming to build. But if you just want a nice little display piece to put on a shelf, fill in those gaps, because it makes it look all that more realistic and makes it look more accurate, which, you know, is always a nice thing to have. So hey, one thing to do, this mock's done it here very, very well, so be sure to study this Boba Fett mock if you're planning on revamping Boba Fett yourself, or you're just planning on revamping any of the Star Wars Ultra Build sets, because this one's got it going on. It's pretty cool. So yeah, he may just be a simple man trying to make his way in the universe like his father before him, but hey, this is looking good, and he's doing it well. I like it. Great Boba Fett mock. And so, we go from Boba Fett to General Grievous, and this is built by Velociraptor. Now, there's actually quite a fair few really, really solid General Grievous mocks out there. Revamps of the set, or just, you know, hey, it was General Grievous. Let's just make him as a mock. Love it. Always cool to see a good General Grievous mock. And one thing that I've always thought, you know, sometimes people go like, I was going to build that, but then someone else built it. Like, I can't build it now. No, man, you can still build it. Because I think I've reviewed like 3 General Grievouses on this show at this point. That sounds about right. If not, I can at least think of 3. And each one has been so different and so unique in their own unique and special ways. So, that's my advice to you. If you're like, I was going to build that mock, but someone else already built it before me, so I can't now. No, man. What can you do? What little unique things can you add? What little unique spin that's uniquely you can you put on your version of General Grievous, or any character that you want to make? Never be afraid to build something just because someone else has, you know? That is completely unrelated to this mock, but hey, I think it's important, you know? So if you want to have a fine addition to your collection that is a General Grievous mock like this, what sort of stuff should you be paying attention to? Well, of course, this General Grievous mock is very, very similar to the Star Wars Ultra Build version, using pieces from it, specifically areas of the feet, the head, some of the tan CCBS pieces as well, which of course came on the original set. But for the most part, the rest of it is very, very system heavy. We briefly spoke about some system on Boba Fett before. We'll speak a bit more about system here. You know, General Grievous is this sort of cyborg droid-like character, and he certainly does have more kind of, robotic details to him. And I think that's very, very effectively been represented here on this version of General Grievous. And that's been done simply through the use of a lot of really well-designed like textures, using a lot of system pieces, specifically on the upper legs, using a whole bunch of these Exoforce robot droid arm pieces there. That one there creates this very, very nice robotic sort of grill-like texture there, very greebly, very detailed, very mechanical. It fits the character well, you know? We also see some of those curved slope pieces for the knees, giving him a more pronounced knee. It kind of has this sort of jagged, kind of sharp feeling to it, which I think fits the character of Grievous well, him being a little bit more sort of savage, evil, robotic, and bad. You know, it's cool. Very, very fitting. I also like, too, you can kind of just see it. I think it's just simply created through repeating a whole bunch of those very, very small friction joints. You typically see them on some of the later waves of CCBS sets. They're the little, like, extender CCBS bone pieces. They're, like, very, very tiny. I think you can see those being used there on the upper legs as well. And it just kind of creates this very interesting texture there, which again looks a little bit more robotic and mechanical. I think it's very fitting and honestly pretty cool too. So again, paying attention to your textures, using a lot of system pieces just to really be accurate to the source material there, I think it goes a long way. Especially too the kind of, I don't want to say collar because it's not, but the kind of like neck thing that General Grievous has here. Again, accurate to the source material, but also very, just a little slight thing, but I think it does go a long way. And I've not really seen that specific detail on other General Grievous MOCs before, but I think it really makes this one pop. So hey, fun little detail, fun little thing you could add on your own General Grievous MOCs. Pretty cool. So yeah, this is a brilliant version of General Grievous. Let's move to a MOC that is another fantastic separatist villain. It's our boy, Count Dooku. I've been looking forward to this. And this has been built by Sergei Rachmaninoff. This is a fantastic Count Dooku. Really, really solid. Really, really good. He looks like he's just ready to oppress the Republic and start his own separatist movement. It's fantastic. What I love so much about this is, typically with some of the CCBS Ultra Build sets, they had these funky, weird, pre-molded heads. And depending on who you ask, some people don't like them. Some people think they look weird. Some people find them hard to use on MOCs. Some people love them. Some people think they're easy to use on MOCs. But, everyone has an opinion on them. But what I think is a unanimous opinion on this is that this is a fantastic, really well-designed brick-built head for Count Dooku. So what sort of pieces are used? Well, a bunch of plates, bricks, typical system pieces. But I love the inclusion of a stud for the mouth, just giving it more of a sort of lip-like look. The inclusion of those headlight brick pieces for the eyes, just so that the eyes sink in ever so slightly, so it gives a more pronounced eye. And then naturally that headlight brick has that circle where you can attach a stud or put a lightsaber rod through or whatever, so that it looks like a more pronounced pupil or eye. And then using some of those cheese slope pieces to give Count Dooku those cheese-like eyebrows. I never thought I would describe eyebrows as cheese-like before, but that's what we've done today. But still, hey, it works really well. Those eyebrows look fairly similar to how Count Dooku's eyebrows look in the Clone Wars. That's quite fitting and quite cool. But yeah, it's just really nice to notice the very subtle little small techniques that have been done here to recreate Count Dooku's head in system. So yeah, really well done. Almost kind of reminds me of like a brick head, or I think they were cube dudes. Some kind of older concepts for some sort of system kind of brick built characters as well. Yeah, just really, really solid head design here. Really, really well done. Something I'm sure you could easily kind of replicate yourself. But with different characters, it wouldn't be hard to recreate Obi-Wan Kenobi or Qui-Gon Jinn in a very similar head design or style, because you could very easily copy a fairly similar eyebrow design, similar nose, eyes, mouth. Those exact techniques would work on any other character. It's just how you style the beard, the rest of the face. Do you want to have any sort of elements of their head kind of pop out a little bit more? Maybe they have a more pronounced chin, or sort of larger forehead, or bigger ears or something perhaps. Possibilities are truly endless. So hey, that's pretty cool. And speaking of other things that are pretty cool, speaking of other things, I love in general just the rest of this design here. All these different CCBS pieces forming this beautiful torso, arms, legs. Like I said before, there's very little gaps here, and there's some brilliant texture play using a whole bunch of very smooth CCBS pieces to really effectively recreate the very suave, beautiful clothing of that of good old Count Dooku. And what I like so much about it is, canonically, Count Dooku is a very rich man. He has a lot of money, wealth, status, and I think seeing his clothing be this very shiny, nice, smooth, textured, having that look to it, is very fitting of that. So, there's a plethora, I say, of information on different Star Wars characters out there. So be sure to give it a Google, head over to Wikipedia, or just watch a movie, or whatever, or grab one of Pablo Hidalgo's reference books, whatever. Have a look at stuff and study the characters and see what you can learn about them, and can you then implement that sort of stuff into the MOC? Something as subtle as that, the fact that Dooku is a wealthy man, so you give him some shiny-looking textures on his clothing to make him look even more wealthy. Very fitting, very smart, very suave. It's great. So yeah, I think this is a fantastic Count Dooku MOC. Really, really well done. Lots of very great texture play, great techniques. It's awesome. I'd love to see you, Mr. Sergei Rakamanov. I'd like to see you either take this exact mock or build a counterpart to him, which is Count Dooku in his sassy pajamas from one of the great episodes of the Clone Wars, where they're like, Count Dooku's sleeping. Well, he'd need some pajamas, wouldn't he? So, or Star Wars Battlefront 2, the video game, where they're like, yeah, let's give you a skin of Count Dooku in his pajamas, because why not? So, hey, if someone out there is looking for a unique take on Count Dooku, build him in his sassy pajamas, because it's a real thing. It's canon, and it's fun. So, hey, that's Count Dooku. Let's move on to a STAP. Yes, that's right, a STAP. A single troop aerial platform with a battle droid on it. From the Battle of Naboo, except in blue, that was more Clone Wars. That was probably the Battle of Teth. But hey, it's a STAP. What I like so much about this is Star Wars has a plethora of awesome vehicles. But one thing that's hard is that they're pretty large. And if you're looking to build on a Bionicle scale, that's not easy to do, you know? I mean, sure, you could build a sort of smaller scale Bionicle version of a Star Destroyer or something, but if you want to have a character be able to actually, like, sit and pilot it, that's actually going to be pretty hard, because, Star Wars ships can be pretty big, Bionicle characters, again, are pretty big, so to build it in scale and stuff, you're gonna need to build a colossal mock if you want to even build something like a Jedi Starfighter or something, you know? Hey, if you're up to the challenge and you've got the pieces, knock yourself out. That sounds really cool, and I'm sure it would look amazing. But if that's not something that you're able to do, focusing on some of the smaller vehicles, like a STAP, I think is a good place to go. Maybe you could build a little speeder bike or something that could be a little bit bigger, depending on the scale that you have, but, like the speeder bike Ultra Build set, it could still be manageable. Or you do like an old Bionicle leak. I'm going to show you this here. I don't know how legit it was, but it's an image that popped up. This is a leak that appeared of an older, what we can assume was going to be a set, but was cancelled, which was an ATRT, an Advanced Recon Transport, which was one of the little clone walkers. Which, again, I think that would have been a massive set, and it would have been amazing. But, it would have been quite a large set. But again, a little bit more manageable than something like some big old Star Destroyer or something, So do that. If you like your vehicles in Star Wars, look towards some of the smaller scale ones, because they'd be a lot more easily achievable in a Bionicle scale. So this does use a lot more sort of system pieces, which is fine. We love our system here on the Bionicle Inspiration series. But it does use some Hero Factory pieces as well. Specifically using some Hero Factory shells kind of towards like the engines on the side here. There's also this system pipe piece which is being connected to a Hero Factory shell. So really wise to use that there, not only for just the general kind of look of it and how it kind of fits in with the rest of the textures and other pieces here. It really does complete that area. But also it naturally has places for you to put in clips so that you can attach those pipes. So a very fitting and smart way of using those for multiple reasons, for aesthetics, but also practical purposes of adding in these little pipe and greeble details. And also we can see some Borok weapon pieces, some Ben 10 torso pieces, and some other Hero Factory shells being used on the top there around the guns. Again, the textures of those, the general shapes of those, match the source material well. I think it effectively represents it. Looks really cool. And speaking of looking cool, Roger, it's time to put a battle droid on it, and it works really, really well. It's quite reminiscent of one of the old Technic battle droid sets that came out around 2000-ish, when Phantom Menace came out and stuff. Great set. I remember actually owning it. My brother owned it, and I played with it a lot. But it was an awesome set. And again, this is similar, but I believe he's done a few unique modifications here on his version. So really cool to see this battle droid being designed with some older pieces, not really any CCBS or more modern elements, using some old like kind of Technic lift arms and things, and then even using a system slope piece to form the head of the battle droid there. I think this is a really, really effective, well-designed, scaled, Bionicle style battle droid. One of the best I've seen, honestly. It's really, really cool. Great to see some system integration and some older pieces being used there. I think the choice of some of those older Technic pieces and older Bionicle elements is wise, because it just matches the look of a battle droid, honestly. It's cool. It's really cool. So yeah, this is really a thing of beauty to see a STAP recreated here with a Bionicle scale in mind. It's quite beautiful. Beautiful indeed. Let us now do much like Newt Gunray once did and send in the Droidekas. It's time for, as Obi-Wan Kenobi once said, Master Destroyers. It's Destroyer Droids by Jason Allman. This guy's a lovely man. I met him once in person at Brickvention in 2018, question mark? I don't remember. 2019? I'm not great with dates, but I've met this man. He's a lovely dude, and he thinks really outside the box with Lego pieces. He is a bit of an inspiration for me, I must say. But hey, he's done a Bionicle mock way back in 2011. This is actually an older mock from him, but hey, this is really cool. And you know why it's cool? Because Droidekas themselves naturally roll up into a ball, uncurl themselves, and pew pew pew, you know? And hey, that's pretty similar to that other thing that rolls up into a ball from Bionicle, the Borok, you know? And so I love the idea that Mr. Jason here has combined the elements of the Borok with the elements of the Droideka. It's a match made in heaven, I do say. It's beautiful. Really, we have to thank the maker here. He's done a fantastic job. I love that concept, especially too the Borok shells being used as the kind of sort of shell that a Droideka naturally has, that sort of armored shell or whatever you want to call it. Great part use. Again, a match made in heaven. It's as if they were designed to be this. I wonder if the original inspiration for the Borok was actually Droideka. Maybe, you know. But yeah, whether it's the Borok kind of limb pieces being used as the legs and arms for the Droideka there, the Borok eyes for the sort of tips of the Droideka's feet, the Borok body for the Droideka body, they flow so well one into the other. It's amazing. It's like I said, it's a match made in heaven. It's really, really nice. The description here on Jason's Flickr post says, a Lego model of a Droideka, in brackets, Destroyer Droid, as seen in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. After purchasing some Bionicle Borok sets way back in 2002, the shape of the carapace inspired me to build these. The model transforms into a reasonably round wheel form. So hey, nice to know that it does transform reasonably well. I imagine it's all just, you know, flip this, move that around, and it does it fairly effectively. So hey, really, really cool. And I'm sure that'd be pretty achievable yourself if you just bought a couple Borok sets. And I mean, maybe Jason's added a couple extra pieces here. I mean, the white axle pieces that he's used for kind of the eyes on the Borok there definitely didn't come in these sets. They came in, well, I know they came in the Super Battle Droid Technic set. So, hey, that's certainly one thing there. That's a piece that's been introduced that didn't come on the Borok there. But what I'm trying to get at here is that you could fairly easily replicate this if you have a couple Borok sets yourself. So might be a fun challenge. Might be something that you could reverse engineer yourself, and you've got a cool Borok Droideka. A Droideka, if you will. We'll workshop that name. All right, time to get in Urabonga and go to the planet core with the Opee Sea Killer. And this is built by Norbert Labugen. Norbert Labugen. That's how I'm saying it. Norbert, you've done a fantastic job here. This is a great rendition of the Opee Sea Killer from the awesome sequence in Phantom Menace. Once again, another Episode 1 themed mock. This is really cool. Now, while there may always be a bigger fish, we're going to focus on this one here because I really need to stop it with these Star Wars quotes. Luckily, this is like the second last mock, so although I probably have more coming. It's not like I've written a list. I was just looking at what the next mock is. I'm like, oh no, I probably will have quotes for that. Anyway, Opee Sea Killer here. It looks great. What I love about it is like 90% of this mock is that exact one piece, that Hero Factory torso piece in red from Therno 2.0. Just really heavily repeating them like that, and I'm sure there's some sort of really complicated Hero Factory bone kind of frame underneath it. That looks really cool. You know, just repeating that piece multiple times kind of looks like fish scales to a degree. And also it's just really, you know, it's really nice to see one piece repeated a whole bunch of times because, hey, it'd be pretty easy to buy one piece in bulk. You know, it might cost a little bit, but it also might not. If it's a kind of unwanted piece to some degree, and I know some guys selling them for like a cent on Bricklink, you could, for the most part, get that on a budget. And heck, back in the day, they used to have Bionicle pieces on the Pick-a-Brick wall at Lego stores. I mean, That's a dream come true. I was not in America or anywhere near a Lego store when that was the case, but I remember speaking to like Shadow Gear and a few other people, and they were like, "Oh, it's so good." And I'm like, "I want this." So hey, if you've got some of those old Pick-a-Brick cups from back in the day, maybe you can put those pieces to good work and recreate the Opee Sea Killer here and get this cool kind of scaled effect. Another cool effect is the use of some Galador pieces. So, as we can see here, the fins on either side of the Opee Sea Killer here are using some of these weird, like, larger, like, they're not really shield pieces. I don't know what you would call them. But there's kind of 3 of them stacked in a line here to form the sort of larger fins closer to the head. Those pieces naturally do have a kind of fishy, aquatic look to them. So I think it's a really great part use there, using those rather interesting Galador pieces. And speaking of some rather interesting Galador pieces, we have opposable tongue. We have some of the kind of Galador limb pieces that I believe were on the set. Was it called Uni? Am I correct in saying that? I always forget the name of that set. But it's one of the cool, like, red Galador sets. Gosh, what's it called? It probably is Uni. I don't remember. I'm sorry. But hey, using some of those Galador pieces there to create the tongue of the Opee Sea Killer, and it's posable. What do you want more? A posable tongue. It's like half the merchandise for the Phantom Menace. All those Jar Jar themed toys that were disturbing but cool. Posable tongues. Fantastic. It's like the deleted scene with Masa Mita in episode 2, I think. Yeah, posable tongues. Anyway, we've also got the Gungan sub, or the Bunga. And this has been used here with a lot of different pieces from the Agori known as Berix. He was prominently featured in the Legend Reborn movie, a fun little movie. If you haven't watched it, it's I believe it's available to just like rent on YouTube, so hey, give it a Google. It's worth the money. I think it's a fun movie. I haven't watched it in ages, though, to be fair, so maybe that's my young nostalgia brain talking here. I don't remember. Regardless, Berix had those cool sword pieces in light blue, which are being used as the sort of back fins of the Gungan sub there. Very, very accurate and cool looking. But also these repeated Berix masks being used as the kind of, I don't know, side fins of the Gungan sub, the Bunga. Those work really well. The natural shape of those Berix masks looks so similar to the look of the Gungan sub. It looks so fitting to the sort of more sort of circular, angled, sleek look that you often see in the prequels. It's very nice. Great use of those pieces there. Really, really solid little Gungan sub there. I love it. I mean, I could say I love it, but then I could also say, Misa like this. A little bit of boss nass, you know. Anyway, all right, we're moving on. So that's the Opee Sea Killer. Let's move into the last mock. Now, this is pod racing. We have Old Podracer Thing. That's what it's called. And it's by The Zipper. That's pretty cool. Love a good pod racer. Rest in peace, Rats Tyrell. The pod racing scene in episode 1 has always been a favorite of mine. Don't understand how people don't like that scene. Some people don't. I love it. Love a good pod racer. Regardless, the sound effects of the pod racer, amazing. But we're not here to critique the pod racing scene. We're here to talk about a good old-fashioned pod racer. Because, hey, pod racers are really fun to build, whether you're building a screen-accurate one, or you're just like, hey, I want to make my own fun pod racer, because they look cool, and they're fun to make. So this is a more Bionicle-focused one. I love the fact that he's used a big old red axle there to replicate the kind of energy beam that all the pod racers have that kind of holds those two engines together. I like the inclusion of a bunch of different tire pieces and some other different sort of rounded elements to kind of form the rounded look of the engines on the front there. Very nice. The fins everywhere, whether it's some official Bionicle fin pieces or some actual weapon pieces or some system sort of fin-like elements. They make this pod racer look cool, you know. Give it some nice agile, fast looking lines, which implies a sense of kind of movement as well. It looks cool, you know, decking out any kind of racer with cool fins and weapons and things. Yeah, it always looks nice. I also like the inclusion of some of those tube elements as the kind of wires that hold the engines to the sort of cockpit area there. A nice use of that piece. And honestly, I could probably go on with the amount of incredible part usages on this, whether it's the Pahatu masks being used on the kind of cockpit area, or whether it's that sort of heads-up display trans blue piece that comes with that Pahatu mask in the set, and that's kind of being used as a sort of cockpit here. It almost looks like there's a minifigure in that cockpit too. I can't quite tell from this image, but it looks like it, which is awesome. But hey, great little pod racer here. Looks like you could see it, in the Phantom Menace itself or on some random pod race on Malastare. Who knows? It's really cool. It's really, really solid. I also love, too, the inclusion of that little stickered element with the little stripes on it there. I don't know. It's just a little subtle thing, having that little stickered piece on there. But it really makes it look all that more Star Wars and all that more accurate and cool looking, So never be afraid to put a good sticker on a MOC, because I think it can always go a long way. But yeah, it's a fantastic little pod racer here. Love it. Amazing. So that's been a whole bunch of fantastic Star Wars MOCs today, and I'm sure if you liked this episode, there'll be more Star Wars MOCs soon. So get ready and get excited. More will be on the way. If you have warriors, now is the time. Which is completely unrelated. I just wanted to say another Star Wars quote, apparently. There's no warriors, and now is not the time. But what is the time? Well, it's time for you to check the links in the description to all the MOCs that you saw in today's episode, because, hey man, these guys built cool stuff. Check out what they've done. And speaking of the description, you can find the submission email there, and you can find it on the screen right now. Ho-ho! It's like the Force. It just appears out of nowhere. It's amazing. Anyway, that's the submission email. If you want to see your own MOCs appear on the show, that's how. Send me images, information, whatever you want to put in the email. Submit it my way. I'll add it to the list, and one day it'll appear on the show. I get a lot of people who are like, what's the theme? What's the theme for next episode? How do I know what to submit? Don't worry about the theme. The theme is irrelevant. Just submit what you've got. I base the theme off what's submitted most of the time. So do not worry about the theme. Don't stress over that. Just send me what you got. It's all good. Also, there's links in the description to some of my social media. You can see me posting Star Wars stuff over on my Instagram and other social media pages there. So yeah, if you liked my random Star Wars quotes, you can hear me ramble about Star Wars over there. And you can see me posting other Star Wars things there too. So if that's something that sounds good, that's the place to go. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to take a sip of water, and that's going to be it for this episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series. I have spoken.